Hey, this is Andy. I just wanted to come on here real quick before the episode starts and give you guys a little disclaimer on this episode. There is a little bit of noise on Sharni's end of the conversation, and I tried to clean it up as best I could, but it's still there somewhat. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. I even debated even putting out this interview because of the noise. I had actually recorded this a year ago, and, at the time I didn't notice the noise, and, upon listening to it when I went to edit the episode, I heard this clicking noise. I was really upset about it, but I went ahead and saved the audio. I was like, you know what? I'll do some more research, and, we just kind of got busy with other things. I kind of forgot about it. But I came back to it. I was like, you know what? This is a really good interview. I think the listeners will enjoy it. So I wanted to see what I could do. So I was able to do some research and figure out how to clean it up some. And so I think it's sounding a lot better than what it was when I started. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And again, I apologize for the noise, but it's definitely a fun conversation with Sharni. She was a pleasure to talk to. So thanks for checking it out, guys.
Is imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Freshest horror movie in decades, starring this house.
I think someone's upstairs.
This wolf.
They've been watching us for days.
This cat.
This wasn't a random attack.
This sheep.
Why would anybody do this?
And this girl.
Grab anything that might make a good weapon.
You're next.
I've never seen you act like this before.
Well, it's a unique situation.
Thanks for the help, by the way.
You seem to have a handle on it.
Welcome back to the Black Cat Shadow. I'm your host, Andy, podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri. And today I'm very excited to talk to a guest that is a modern-day screen queen, has appeared on TV and film, and is quickly becoming a household name. Sharni Vinson, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Yeah, very excited to talk to you today. So you come from a long line of entertainers. I mean, you're like a third-generation entertainer in your family. And also acting is not your only talent. Can you share with our listeners like how you got your first involved in performing for other people?
Yeah, I definitely was born into it. My grandmother was, I believe, one of the youngest, if not the youngest, dancer at the time. She was a ballerina to get a scholarship out of Australia. That was back in, I think 1945. And so she was an exceptional ballerina. She was on point at the age of 3, which is just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So she sort of, I think, started it all, and it was her love of dance, and also she was a great singer. She sang on radio when she was a child. And she was definitely the entertainer of the family. And then she had 3 girls who also got into the entertaining industry heavily in musical theatre. And my mother did her whole career was musical theatre based. She went from show to show. So I also grew up watching my mum on stage from as early as I can remember. So it's in our blood. And my grandfather, even though he, doesn't like to admit it, he's actually got a bit of a dancing bug as well. So it was like the musical theatre training, which is dancing, singing and acting. And I was told that you have to be capable in all three in order to have a successful career on stage. So I just started learning this really young, and I would put on shows as a child my whole life, entertaining my family and dress up all the kids and make the adults watch and, recreate the Sound of Music numbers and all the good Fame musicals and Footloose and Dirty Dancing and you name it, we would recreate the show and make everybody watch. So the entertaining bug, I think, just bit from birth,
Right, yeah.
And so, yeah, it just, I think as I kind of grew up, I did always go to, after school, I went to a performing arts school where I just trained in dancing, singing and acting and different stages of my life. I think, different parts have taken over. I was in a pop group when I was 17, so that was a lot dedicated to the singing. And then the dancing, forever, and now heavily into the acting. So the thing that's great with the acting is that you can cross over roles. So my first movie was Step Up 3D, and I was able to, show, I guess, the fact that I did dance, and I am a dancer, and I have danced for so long. It's nice when you can incorporate those other worlds into the one, which is what acting can provide. So that's why I love acting.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome when you can add your different strengths into each role that you do. And so Americans may know you from appearances in TV shows like CSI New York and NCIS and movies like Step Up 3D and You're Next, but you'd already achieved some acting credit in Australia. Can you tell us a little about the TV series that you were in over there?
Yeah, I came from a TV series called Home and Away, which is Australia's one of our longest running TV programs. I think it's been on air now for, my Lord, over 30 years it's been running. So it's primetime soap, so 7 nights a week. You're on air, but you're also working 7 days a week and very long hours. And it's an amazing schedule. It puts you right into what it means to be a full-time working actor. And that sort of, being my first real acting job. I always said once you've come out of a show like Home and Away where you've really worked that hard, I feel like there's almost nothing you can't achieve or you can't do when it comes to how busy it can get and how many lines and pages of dialogue you have to learn within, overnight, and then do it the next day. Like you don't get a lot of time to prepare. So if you can stay on top of things on that schedule, then something like doing film, which is much more slow paced, comes quite easy and naturally after a show like Home and Away. But I was on that for 3 years, and it was great because I grew up watching that show because the show has been on air for so long. That was, the most popular show on TV when I was growing up. So I kind of watched a lot of our, icons come through that show. Isla Fisher, Melissa George, Heath Ledger, they all came through, Guy Pearce. They've all been on this show. And so I was very aware of the platform that it created as an actor to then move to the States and progress your career even further out of a show like that, because it had happened for quite a few of the actors that had left Home and Away. So I was on the show for 3 years, and after 3 years I decided it's time to move to the States. And then I moved here and started doing those, roles you were speaking of, CSI, Cold Case, NCIS, and then along came Step Up, and I've been doing films ever since. It's just been crazy.
It's cool to see you, making that progression and, seeing you get some recognition here in America. And I think with a lot of people in the horror community, you've earned the title of Scream Queen, especially, because of your role in You're Next. And so because of that, I'm sure you get offered a lot of roles in other horror movies, but do you see that as being typecast in a way, or do you see it as an opportunity to add something new to each character that you play?
Probably a bit of both, in the sense that we live in an industry and work in an industry that generally does typecast no matter what you do. Even, for example, like Chris Hemsworth, I worked with him for the 3 years I was on Home and Away. We were actually working together on that show at the same time. So we moved out to LA at the same time. So it's been really, really interesting to see his career progress and for him to be where he is. But even to that degree, like he's typecast, as like a superhero, as like this big dude that's going to come and save the world, and you're going to, my point is, I think every single actor is typecast to a degree, and I don't think it's a bad thing, because we've always associated the word typecast with something negative, and it doesn't need to be, because when you find your niche, you can jump from film to film to film to film to film. People begin to love you for that, and for that being your thing. Everyone's begging me to do another horror movie off the back of your neck, because that seems to be now, if you want to call it typecast, but it could also be my niche, so it depends which way you want to sort of look at it. But then in the other respect, it does ricochet off into other things. Like, for example, I did grow up dancing, and I grew up in the ocean. I was in the lifesaving club for a very long time. So it made sense off the back of Step Up to do something physical. I was a very physical person, and go into Blue Crush and do a surfing movie and show that I can surf as well. And when it comes to horror, I feel like the specific horror movies that I've done have been a lot of fun. Like Your Next was a lot of fun. Fate was a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun to be had within these horror movies. Horror movies they don't just have to be scary. They can also be quite comedic and quite action-packed. And I definitely take on roles which give me a lot of action within the horror. And so therefore I see out of these horror movies the opportunity to do action movies and turn it across into that genre. So even though you can be typecast like to horror, I feel like it can also transition you nicely into other realms. And that could be for me action, because based on my movies, there's a lot of action as well in there for my characters. So it gives me a great opportunity to show that that's what I also do. And it excites me. I'm an adrenaline seeker,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, I would love to see you in an action movie. I think that you would definitely fit the bill for that. Looking at like Your Next, I think like one of the big effective things for that was just the setting itself. I think the house like was really creepy. And so I was wondering, is that a real house, or did you guys have a set that you were filming in?
Yeah, no, everything was done on location. That was a real house, and it took them a while to find that house. It wasn't the original house, I don't believe, that they had their eye on. But it was the house that was meant to be, because it was creepy, because it was a real house that was abandoned. It was actually on the market for sale at the time. So it had been abandoned and had been on the market for quite a while. So our, art department and, set people had to go in there and completely clean out what you can't even imagine how many cobwebs, and things like that were in this house. So it was actually haunted. If you believe in ghosts, there's got to have been ghosts in this house. And this house was haunted for sure. So when we go in there, every single floorboard does creak. And none of that is sound effects. If you hear a floorboard creak as we're walking through the house, that's real. Like, that was actually happening. And the doors as well, like when you slowly open these doors and they would creak, because it was a very old house. And when you can get those things happening in real time and you don't have to add them in post, the sound effects and whatnot, it's a real atmosphere. So I think that all plays out on screen real, it's happening. So yeah, I mean, that house was creepy. It was really creepy. And the basement was creepy, and all those things. Yeah, they were, at the same time, they did a great job, because they had to clean it out and then completely redecorate the whole thing, all the furniture and everything. So they did a great job with making it look like it hadn't been abandoned for however many years it had. But actually in the movie, it's not the house they live in full time. It kind of made sense that it was a bit dirty as well, Yeah, it was very smart. They were very lucky to have found it. It was in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm actually from Missouri myself, so that was cool to see that it was filmed in my state.
Yeah, it was like where it snows one day and it's boiling hot the next. Yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
It was crazy. We had that. It was nuts. I couldn't believe it.
I know, yeah. It's like some people, they talk about the traffic, but here we talk about the weather because, like you said, you could experience all 4 seasons in 1 week. It's insane.
Yep, I did. I really did. We did shooting that film. I mean, we had like a what do you call it? I think you would call it like a twist or a hurricane or something. Not a twist, but a hurricane or
like a tornado.
Like really strong winds. Yeah, tornado comes through when we were shooting, and we had Adam Wingard's brother outside hanging off the lights, trying to hold them down that were out, the lights that were outside at night, lighting the inside of the house from outside. He was hanging off them and like literally flying in the wind, like Wizard of Oz type stuff. It was hilarious. And then it just, the next day it's boiling hot, you know.
Yeah.
we couldn't figure it out. It was so funny. I loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, and like working with Adam Wingard and AJ Bowen and Joe Swanberg, like those guys have worked on other like they have kind of a history among themselves already. But at this point, when you guys start doing your next, was it like walking into a group of friends that like, and like, was it like a smooth production? Did that like really help things like move along at a better pace?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was the crux of the whole experience, and what I think gave the on-screen chemistry such believability was the fact that these guys have, you know, most of them have worked together before, so they have a rapport on camera that you can't deny. They're really good friends. So when they banter, like when Joe Swanberg takes on AJ Bowen at that dinner table, that is real buddies having a like great time in, you know, an improvisation class, if you will. That none of that was like, some of it was. I mean, obviously Simon Barrett wrote an incredible script and that dinner table scene was scripted, but they gave such freedom to us as actors. Simon and Adam gave such freedom to us that they were like, just keep going with it. You know what I mean? Just take it to the next level. Like, just keep going, like ad-lib, make it up, carry on. We'll just keep shooting it. And what ended up happening with that particular scene was it was so good. They had so much to say to one another that they just kept going. And we ended up shooting that scene for 17 hours. And you only see like 3 minutes of it or something in the movie. But we were joking and saying the whole behind the scenes, the whole thing should just be that 17-hour footage. Like it should just, that's it. Because it was brilliant. And we were thinking, how are they going to figure out what they're going to actually put into the movie? They have so much good stuff. And the reason they had so much amazing footage and options to choose from in the end was because these guys were good friends. They know how to, not only are they brilliant actors individually, but then they're good friends. You put them together and it's like magic. And then you put Ty West in there as well. And the thing that was great is like Ty West and Joe Swanberg, like they both also with Amy Simon, they have they're also directors and cameramen, and they, you know, got in there. And at one time, I remember seeing Joe with the camera on his shoulder, filming us with the arrow sticking out of his back. So it's like our cameraman has an arrow sticking out of his back with blood dripping out of his back, but he's the one shooting, because they could all just sort of take turns and switch up roles, and it was such a unit, teamwork unit. And that's why it worked, I think. Aside from the fact that we had a great script and a great cast and a great director, like it was that everybody got on so well and had so much respect for one another, that, you know, you wanted to just do the best job you could do for the sake of everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell that there was a lot of chemistry there within the cast, and so, like you said, it's a perfect storm. I think it's a great horror movie, but, you know, there's a lot, you know, it has some depth to it, and like you said, it has some comedy to it, like some dark comedy. So I think it's you know, I think it's a great movie that could often be overlooked as just like another slasher movie, but there's a lot more to it, definitely.
Yeah, and I think in the promotion of it, that's how kind of Lionsgate wanted to keep it. They wanted to keep it sort of under wraps as to what to expect. Because if you go ahead in the trailer and sort of throw in the fact that this is also a comedy and you know, you could have done so many different types of advertising for this. But the way they chose to do it was, you know, it's just sort of your typical home invasion horror movie. But then you go see it and realize you come out pleasantly surprised because you didn't expect a lot of the things that you see. Whereas a lot of the time in the trailer, they give away all the best secrets in the movie and the trailer's better than the film, you know. I feel like we saved the best moments of the movie. None of them are in the trailer. None of them at all. And we saved that on purpose so that you would go and have a surprise experience.
Yeah, there was definitely some twists that I didn't see coming, so it was really cool. Yeah, when you take on like a TV or film role, is there a process you use to get into the mindset of your character, your role?
It depends on the role. For example, like with Step Up, I grew up a dancer, and so I felt like I'd been training for that role my whole life. So there wasn't really any like mental character preparation except for the fact that it was my first time doing an American accent. So I had to get into the mindset of being an American living in New York City. So that was tough, but it came to like something like You're Next. Originally the role was written for an American, and when I auditioned for the film, they decided to give the Australian thing a go. And so going into that, it was like I was almost playing myself through a lot of it because I was able to just be Australian. I was the girl that grew up on a survivalist compound. I grew up on a farm. I know that's not a survivalist compound, but I grew up on a farm and grew up doing dancing and swimming and horse riding and martial arts and boxing and water skiing and a lot of heavy duty things my whole life. So I could relate to a lot of parts of Erin. But then when it comes to that mindset of like killing people, I suppose, obviously I have no experience to draw on from that, thank God. So when it comes to that, what I did for You're Next was just took it really lightheartedly. You know, I mean, there's actually footage of myself and Wendy Glenn, who lived together at the time. We were roommates. So there's actually footage of us singing and dancing on set and laughing and jumping around at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a sudden you hear, we're rolling, everybody, we're rolling. And then like we literally just go from laughing and jumping and laughing to we drop on the floor and we're like, okay, we've got to make sure all the doors and the windows are locked. And then we just go into it. And it's like, it's all of a sudden just like turned serious. And I think it's good because it breaks that, oh, this is a serious horror movie. Like we just had so much fun shooting it that it was a joy to even do the parts of the movie that should not be a joy to do. It was a joy. So we kept it really light, honestly, really, really light. And that was probably worked in our favor too.
Yeah, no doubt. So, you know, as you come away from, you know, several roles you've done and things like that, what is something that you've learned about yourself through playing all these different roles?
Well, I guess I've always known probably a lot of these things, but being older and now looking back, it's only now you really realize them. But I've definitely realized that I am somebody that needs to be pretty much on the go 24/7. I have a lot of energy and I love to be busy, and the busier I am, honestly, the better. So when it comes to picking my movies and doing my best work, it usually falls on top of making a selection where I'm not just going to be sitting on set bored all day, every day, you know, just waiting to get up and deliver one line and sit back down. I, through Home and Away, realized that I love having a busy schedule. And through Step Up, you know, 5 months living in New York, training for 14 hours every day, 6 days a week, like that was a super duper hard schedule, and one that maybe a lot of people would want to quit, you know, like I can't do this anymore. This is so hard. I mean, I broke 2 toes also shooting that movie. And it was like when I've never broken anything, right? So when I broke my toes, I just literally laughed and looked at it and I went, yes, I'm finally broken something. Like I feel like I was the odd one out. I was like, let's go, let's keep going. And then it was just stupid. I mean, I don't know many people that would react that way, but I've realized that I definitely thrive on adrenaline. Like I'm an adrenaline junkie. So when it comes to picking movies and just living life to its fullest and being happy, I'm at my happiest when I'm busy and when I'm just doing crazy physical things, working a lot with the stunt department on the sets of my films has been the biggest joy, honestly. I love working with them. And that's definitely testimony to the fact that I'm an adrenaline junkie and I love doing these crazy fun things. Part of Your Next, a lot of the training came into fight choreography and a lot of martial arts. We did a lot of reaction training, a lot of weapons training. And I would just walk around set twirling knives and twirling the fire poker like a baton, like thinking, that it was great. And whenever I have something to constantly do, I love it. I don't need to sleep a lot. I've also realized that I don't need a lot of sleep. That's something I've realized about myself. I'm not a big sleeper. Most women like their sleep and they sleep in, but I like to get up at, 6 a.m. and get busy, get ready, go do stuff. And the other thing I've realized about myself is that nothing's more important than family at the end of it all, because I moved away from my family and I moved away from everything that is the most important in your life. And I've been living away now for 10 years. So I think I've realized about myself after this huge journey and doing all these films and living what you would definitely call the dream is that the dream is also home. It's family, and just to see your family happy and healthy, like I've realized about myself how important family is by being away. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good experience.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Sharni, we want to give you a chance to talk about anything that you have, any projects you're working on currently, or anything that you have upcoming. Yeah,
there's some pretty exciting things coming up, actually. I've been pretty heavily invested for the last 2 years in the making of a TV series called Gods and Secrets, which has been produced by Adi Shankar, who is legendary actually in the business because he was the youngest producer ever to take a movie #1 at the box office in North America with The Grey. But he's also, he's very known for his online bootleg universe adaptation short films, like he did the Power Rangers and Dirty Laundry. He's done a couple that have just been fantastic. So basically we started shooting another one of those a couple of years ago, and it just took on a world of its own. And before we knew it, it went from a web series to a full-blown TV series. And so now we've shot 9 full episodes, 30-minute episodes. And it's like a very dark version of what you would probably know as the superheroes of the Justice League, but we've mashed them up in a big way. I'm actually playing like a character called the Speed, which is a speedster, like similar to the Flash. So I get to do a lot of running in this one and, get my superhero on. So actually a lot of action as well, which was great. I ended up going into stunt classes with people in Las Vegas that are just absolutely amazing. And now I do wire work classes where you get hooked up to wires and go flying through the air like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon stuff. So this show is it's new age, but it's dark. So it's like what would happen to the world if, Donald Trump was president and we all went back to war. This was written before he was president, which is really strange. And then through the process, he became president. And it's like a lot of the things that we were writing about that were a joke at the time have come true. So it's quite funny. It's really funny. It's definitely got a big element of comedy to it. But because it's been 2 years in the making, I'm really excited for that to finally come out. I don't have exact dates for you, but stay tuned because I know they're coming really, really soon. And you can, we'll know where to catch it soon. So it'll all be announced shortly, and I'm really excited for that. And then, Christmas is coming, so I know I've got to go back to Australia and visit the family and spend Christmas on the beach, which I know people here don't fathom, which is very strange. Christmas in the summertime. So it's a little bit of home and family time, and then really just finally we've wrapped and finished post-production on this show, so we're going to get that out there and see where that takes us next.
Nice. Well, Sharni, I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us today and give the listeners a chance to know you better as a person and hear about some of your experiences in the world of filmmaking. And thanks again for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Andy. Thank you so much. It was awesome to chat with you.
And once again, thank you guys for checking out this episode. I had a lot of fun talking to Sharni and recording it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Your Next is definitely one of my favorite horror movies to come out in this in the 2010s. I was very excited to be able to talk to her. And so as far as upcoming episodes, next month is October. That is a big month for the horror community with Halloween coming up. And so we are going to be talking about some Halloween-themed movies for the month of October. Each episode that we release will be focused on, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 Halloween-themed movies. And we'll just be talking about them, reviewing them. And then we'll also release our Universal Monsters crossover event part 2, where me and Phantom Dark Dave will talk about Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, the sequel to the Wolfman. So definitely stay tuned for October coming up. It should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. You can keep up with us on social media. We are on Facebook, Horror Amino. We're also on Twitter at Black Cat Podcast. I'm not super active on social media. And also, if you're on iTunes, it really helps us out to leave us an iTunes review. And it doesn't have to be a 5-star review. Just let us know what you think of this show. I love interacting with you guys, with the listeners. I don't really get to do it very often, but whenever somebody does reach out and tell me what they think, I really appreciate it. You can definitely send us an email at blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. And our website is www.blackcatshadow.com. And there you'll find all of our past episodes and the links to download them on the app of your choice. And you'll also find our movie store there where you can buy a movie and help out the podcast. So remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you, and you may just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat's shadow.